So Ruth is a technical SEO analyst at DeepCrawl who spends her time helping clients with all things related to technical SEO while also communicating the latest developments in the search space. Ruth, you may begin.
Okay. Let me know if you can see. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Awesome. So yeah, just before I start, I wanted to take a moment to obviously acknowledge how tough the news today has been for a lot of us. I don't think it's going to fully sink in for a while, but yeah, we'll take some time to heal. And yeah, like Matt said, I didn't know if I was going to speak today, but then I thought about what Hamlet would want, and he would want us to carry on sharing and inspiring each other. I think a lot of people know he's been quite monumental in my journey so far in Python. And he's inspired countless others as well. And I know he would want us to carry on sharing with everyone. So yeah, he played a massive part in this presentation as well, and giving me the confidence to be able to share and talk about this kind of stuff. So I just wanted to say that before I started. So what I'm going to talk about today is this problem. It's that as SEOs, we're very busy people. We often have a lot of tasks we have to do and have to wear a lot of hats. But there is a solution to this in the form of automation, and more specifically automation using Python. So what I'm going to talk about today is my journey with Python, how I got started and what I've been doing so far, how it can help with technical SEO, and finally how it's also helping with machine learning, which is also being used for SEO. So my journey with Python started a bit like this. I don't have a computer science background or a data science background. I'm just a curious SEO who saw people talking about Python and thought I would give it a try. Really enjoying what I've been able to do with it so far. So just briefly, I'll touch on what Python is. So Python is a general purpose programming language. It's interpreted line by line and is object orientated, which means it's designed to be readable. So it's a great programming language to start learning with. It's also open source, so it has a whole community behind it. And this is how code is written. So it gets written in the terminal and then results will be generated beneath, just like this. And when I was researching Python, I found that some of the biggest brands in the world are using it, both to power their platforms, but also to perform data analysis. And that's companies such as NASA, Instagram, Uber, Spotify, and even Google. Their first web crawler was actually built in Python, and it remains one of their official server-side languages. And YouTube also use it, as it's fast enough for them to produce maintainable features, but with efficiency. And there's lots of ways that you can get started learning. For me personally, the Code Academy computer science course was a really great way to get started. It has a mixture of theory and practical projects that you can undertake, and there's also a code console so you can play around and test what you're learning. There's also Data Camp. This again has a wide range of interactive exercises and challenges of projects that you can undertake, as well as Solo Learn, which is a free mobile app and will let you learn Python on the go essentially. And that has over 200 questions and like a code playground that you can play around with. And then there's also some fun sites to help you learn as well. Sites such as Code Combat. This is like a video game style where you essentially move your character around using Python commands. So when it comes to using Python, it can be run in a number of different ways. So if you're on Mac, you can run it through your terminal. If you're on Windows, you can use your command line. But there's also some cloud-based alternatives too. So things such as Google Colab and also Jupyter Notebooks. And these are just providing an easier experience for beginners who are just getting started and want to test different elements of different lines of code. And you can also share with others what you're doing and read other people's code and play around with that as well, a lot easier in these cloud-based alternatives. So the main power of Python is really in the libraries that are available. So these allow for a number of additional add-ons such as data extraction, scientific computing, natural language processing, and machine learning. And these ones I've shared on the slide are just a few which are useful for performing SEO tasks in particular. So how can Python help with technical SEO? And why should we care? So while having an understanding of the languages that program our websites such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript is super important, Python allows for many automation opportunities, so we can automate those repetitive tasks that usually take up a lot of our time, as well as things such as data extraction and analysing that data in order to solve complex problems. And this is going to lead to us being more efficient, saving our time, and also future-proofing our jobs as the world becomes a lot more automated. So say, for example, you spend 5 hours a week using Excel. That adds up to 20 hours a month, which is over 200 hours a year. So just imagine what you could achieve if you spent this time on other important optimization activities that can't be automated. And here's an example of something I recently helped a client with following a migration. We wanted to see if the redirects were relevant post and pre the migration. So we took their data from accrual, from the pre-migration and the post-migration, we put them into Python, and we just used some really simple comparison operators to essentially see if the category was the same and if the depth was the same following the migration. And then just like in Excel, you can also create pivot tables based on each column, so you can get a total count or an average. And it's just an easier way of playing with so much data. That doesn't mean that we need to use Excel. And it's because of all of this that Python is continuing to grow in popularity within the SEO community, because it helps us to better understand the data that we're dealing with. This leads to us being able to make more data-driven decisions and provide concrete insights to our clients and stakeholders. And most importantly, we have the confidence in the recommendations that we're giving. And like I mentioned, it allows us that time and effort that we can focus on other activities. And there's loads of automation possibilities with Python. So you can do things such as analyze internal links, perform keyword research, optimize images, scrape websites. And I just wanted to share some of the Python scripts that I started using when I first started learning Python that can help to tackle common SEO issues. So the first is missing alt text, and obviously alt text is important for image search and also for accessibility. But there is a solution to this with an image captioning tool that uses Pythia. So Pythia is a modular framework that was actually designed by Facebook. And essentially what it does is it looks at an image and it weights different parts of it in order to understand what the image contains. And this can all be run in a Google Colab notebook. You can run all of the codes. You don't need to write any code yourself. It runs everything for you. And then it's going to give you a space where you can add in the URL of your image. You just press a little button that says caption this image, and it will generate a caption for you below the image that can be used as alt text. But it is worth noting that it's not perfect. It is a machine and it is still learning, so it's always best to check results. For example, it thought this picture of a group of pandas was actually a herd of sheep. And the other challenge is large image file sizes. So obviously these are going to impact your site's performance, and that could provide a negative user experience. But there is an aptly named script called optimize images, which essentially uses just Python and one library called Pillow. And this will allow you to either optimize a single image or a folder that has multiple images in it. So I have this example here of an old blog that I used to have, and you can see the page speed score was 59 out of 100, and the biggest recommendation was to optimize the images. So what I did was I took those images from the page I put them into a folder, I ran that through this script, and then I re-uploaded them to the site. And as you can see, that increased the score to 77, and the image load time decreased by 7 seconds. Obviously there's a lot more to page speed than just images, but they do have an impact, and optimizing them is going to make a lot of difference. And as you can see, there's no visual difference between the original and the optimized image. It's simply just reducing the file size. And Google has also been sharing Python code. So there was this really interesting notebook that John Mueller shared during a discussion about PageRank, for understanding theoretical PageRank and how it changes if a page has breadcrumbs or if it doesn't have breadcrumbs. And this essentially allows you to build a site structure based on the number of categories you have, the number of subcategories, and then the number of items within that subcategory. And it's going to use a default 0.85 damping factor, and then display a theoretical PageRank for a page when it's including or not including breadcrumbs. And you can even visualize the links you have from a page based on the number of categories you set. And the best thing about these scripts is that you don't need to know any coding yourself. They're all written for you. You just need to invest a little bit of time to get things set up, and then you can play around with them, play around with the scripts, see if you can do something extra cool with it, break it, try and fix it. That's the best way to learn. But really that's just scratching the surface with what's possible with Python. So you can also do things such as analyze log files, validate your hreflang, perform competitor analysis, or automate page speed audits. And the best way to go about adding Python to your workflow is to think about what can be automated. So especially when you're performing really tedious, time-consuming tasks, see if there's a way that that can be automated, and if there's something that you can build that's going to help you with that. And so here's an example of a project that I worked on that was helped by using Python. So this was an internal link analysis. So we wanted to basically identify which sections of the site are linked to the most, if this impacts performance, if there were sections that we could improve the internal linking to. So essentially what we did was took a web crawl, segmented it based on the URL structure, and then put it into Python, selected the columns that we wanted. So we wanted things like followed links, links out, links in, the depth, the level, things like that. And then we were able to take the categories and basically use some mathematical functions built into Python to find things like the average number of internal links, the total number of internal links to each section, and see how this compared. And we can then extract it to something like Google Sheets and then report it back to the client. And it's just a nicer format for them to be able to see these results. And here's just an example of where I've included an average links in count, an average deep rank, and then an average level for each section of the site to review if there's any correlations between those and the number of internal links that go to them. But you can also have fun with Python. It doesn't have to all be about SEO. So for example, I created a bot that uses Python, Telegram, and the random dog API to essentially send you a picture of a dog when you type in the word bot. And you can also use the Pygame library to create your own video game. So now I want to touch on just a really quick introduction to machine learning for SEO and how Python is helping with that. So Python is a really popular programming language that's used to power machine learning, and that's because of its accessible syntax and the libraries available. So machine learning essentially is an application of artificial intelligence, and it provides systems the ability to learn and improve without needing to be programmed. And it does this by, you will give it a script to train the computer using a data set. It's then going to summarize and visualize that data, evaluate the algorithms that come from it, and then make predictions from that data. And machine learning is being used all the time. We're interacting with it on a daily basis, and in some cases we're even helping to train the models that are being used. So for example, Google use it for many of their algorithms, things like RankBrain, BERT, and their natural language processing. Twitter use it to create personalized timelines. Facebook chatbots are also run using machine learning. So there's an example here from Domino's Pizza, which allows you to order a pizza completely through Facebook Messenger without having to talk to a single human. And Netflix also use it for their personalized recommendations. So this will give you recommendations based on what you've previously watched or what others with a similar taste are watching. And data really is the fuel for machine learning. The more data you have to train the model, the better and the more reliable results you will get. So there's two main types of machine learning. The first is supervised learning, which is trained on a label data set. So you give the data a label and the desired output. So when the learning algorithm is given the answer, it already knows what it needs to look for in an image, and then it's able to tell you what that image contains. Whereas unsupervised learning, which is trained by data that's not labeled, and this allows the algorithm to act on the information without guidance and learn from the images. And this is often used to test the capabilities of a new system when you don't have a preset data and when you don't have labeled data. So you can test it on that to see what it displays. And I think this quote perfectly sums up the power of machine learning for SEOs, because machine learning is going to help us make sense of an increasingly complex world. Already we're exposed to more data than what our senses can cope with or our brains can process. And obviously as SEOs, we handle a lot of data, and being able to make sense of that is sometimes quite tricky. So machine learning is going to help us with that. And there's a bunch of SEO possibilities with machine learning. So you can do things such as evaluate content quality, perform predictive analysis, transcribe audio, and also gain user engagement insights. So here are a few examples of machine learning being used in the wild. So the first is predictive prefetching. So this is essentially based on user navigation patterns that are collected from an analytics source like Google Analytics. And it uses a tool called Guess.js, which essentially builds a machine learning model that's going to predict and prefetch JavaScript that it thinks is going to be required for the next page that a user is going to visit. So it can do things such as predict the next page a user is likely to visit and prefetch those pages so that you're improving page load performance and therefore user happiness. You can also predict the next piece of content, so whether that's going to be an article or if they're going to look at a product, and adjust the user experience to account for that. Or you could predict the types of widgets that an individual is likely to interact with, and then use this data to tailor a more custom experience for them. There's also internal linking. So there's two main ways that machine learning can help with internal linking. The first is to update broken links. So this can be done by crawling a website first to identify those broken internal links. And then you could build an algorithm that essentially suggests the most accurate replacement page and then replace those broken links with that. And then there's also tools such as Link Whisperer and Sunutu, which essentially are suggesting a relevant internal link based on the big data that they're collecting. So they have algorithms that are constantly being fine-tuned and acquiring new information from you. And then they can start to suggest internal links for the types of content that you're writing. So you could get a suggestion of linking to this other page that you've got based on the type of content that you're writing. There's also content quality. So this is things such as improving the content quality by predicting the kinds of things that users and search engines are going to prefer. So you can take some key factors such as the search volume, the conversion rate of a page, how many internal links it has, the heading tags, the word count of that page, and essentially take those important factors to train a machine learning model so that you can generate a content quality score for every page and know which ones you need to focus on. And then user experience. So machine learning is being used to help improve user experience in a number of different ways. So for example, Instagram are using it for sentiment analysis to essentially identify and address any bullying language that is being used on the platform. Twitter also use it for image cropping. So they actually ensure that the images are cropped to show in the preview things such as text. So the text is actually in different sections of each of these images, but it's cropped so that it always shows the text in the preview. And the machine learning model that does this was trained on thousands of images, and it started off by showing previews like this before it was able to identify the most important part of the image, and then it can start to show those in the preview. In computer vision, that's also being used to help with user experience. Mainly this is for identifying what is in an image. So in order to make the image more accessible for users who are unable to see it, computer vision can look at an image, see what's in it, and explain it to those that can't see it. And then finally there's chatbots. So these can help answer user queries or find information that's relevant to what they're looking for on a site. But it is worth noting that trust is key, so let users know if they're talking to a bot rather than talking to a human. And then there's also natural language processing. So natural language processing uses machine learning to reveal the structure and meaning of text. So essentially it analyzes the text to understand the sentiment and extract the key information. And Google actually have a demo of their natural language model. And what you can do is you can put any text in here. So in this example, I took a description of the All New Digital Virtual Summit's description. I ran it through the API. And what it can do is generate an entity identifier. So this can help you to find out how Google's understanding your content. And it can also help you to review which words in a paragraph are dependent on each other, which are part of speech, and just to help you better understand how Google is understanding what you're trying to say. And thanks to Brittany Miller, we're actually able to play around with these in Google Colab. So you can take a URL and essentially extract the entities and categories from them in order to analyze them. So essentially, Python and machine learning are becoming the future of technical SEO. And this is because they enable us to understand and solve problems faster. They also allow us to make more data-driven decisions and have the confidence in the decisions that we're recommending. They allow us to focus on those other important optimization activities. And they're also helping us to help our users and improve that experience that they have on our websites. But the truth is, honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's okay. I'm just enjoying learning, playing around with it, seeing what I can do, seeing how it can help with my job. I do have a few tips for anyone who is looking to get started. So firstly, speak to the developers that you work with. So there's a good chance that they have an understanding of Python. So you could tell them about what you're learning, see if there's a project that you can collaborate on. You can also join communities. There's hundreds of online communities out there for people that are learning Python, and there you can just ask questions, get ideas, get inspiration, and just network with others that are doing similar things to you. But most importantly, keep practicing and have fun. Don't put any pressure on yourself to learn at any pace other than what is comfortable for you. So for example, I did the 100 Days of Code challenge, which was a really great way for me to get started and to form a habit of coding. But just do what works best for you and just keep practicing. And there's loads of people in the industry that are doing really amazing stuff and inspire me every day. So they're definitely worth checking out. And I just wanted to give a really quick shout out to the professional services team at DeepCrawl. I've learned so much since I joined the team, and everyone's doing really exciting and innovative stuff. And we're really looking forward to being able to share some of that soon. So some key takeaways. Python can help technical SEOs increase their efficiency by automating repetitive and time-consuming tasks. Being able to better understand the data that we're dealing with is going to lead to better decisions being made and allow us to have more confidence in those. And anyone can learn Python. You just need to have a little bit of commitment, have fun, and see what you can create. And I just wanted to end with this really quick message. You don't need to learn Python in order to be a good SEO. But if you do feel like trying it, then just give it a go. And finally, some resources for anyone who's looking to get started. Thank you.
So, where can I find Python resources that Ruth showed for 0.001 seconds on the screen?
Sorry. Sorry.
Maybe you can share that again.
Yeah, I do have a list as well, which like a document, which I can share a link to for anyone that's interested.
Yeah, awesome. We will also be sharing, as mentioned, all the slides to everyone who is attending, and the video is also being recorded. But maybe if you could just share your screen real quick again.
Yes, I will. You can see that.
Somebody's dying to dive into the Python programming. Okay. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what the topics or these websites refer to regarding Python.
Yeah, so a lot of them are actually Hamlet's resources, which he wrote for a search engine journal, and they're just really actionable things that you can do. So little projects that you can run using your website's data. So there's also a reference guide here as well, which kind of has everything you need to know about the most useful sides of Python for SEO tasks. He also did a webinar with us, which was how I first met him, where we spoke in more detail about the image, what's the word I'm looking for? Like creating alt text for the images. So he was the one that introduced, I think, everyone to this way of using Pythia to create captions for images. So he did a whole webinar with us all about that. And then yeah, just some more general learning Python resources that I found really useful as I went through the journey of learning.
How long did it take you so that you would say, okay, I think I can come and confidently speak about SEO in Python like you did today?
I still don't think I'm that confident in it. But it's been about a year since I started learning it, but it was only kind of the end of last year that I really started sharing things that I'd been doing with it. So yeah, probably about 9 months before I was confident enough to share things.
Okay, that's did you have a lot of technical background before that you would say helped you a lot, just understanding it faster and learning it faster?
No, definitely not. I mean, maths was like my worst subject, so I never thought I'd be able to learn a programming language. I was more of an English kid at school, so I didn't think I'd ever be able to really like pick it up and learn it without just having like a basic knowledge of it. But yeah, I just think if I can learn it, anyone can, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks a lot